Hello and welcome to the Anorak Review Show with your host, the Anorak. 5 years ago today, we've lost a very important and very powerful star. One that shined so uniquely for nearly 50 years, if not more. One that orbited a solar system of other great stars that brought us a universe of wonder that we still look and listen in awe every day. And to celebrate how much of an impact he had given us, I'm looking at the Swan Song or Swan album of David Bowie with Blackstar. Without further ado, I will go over each and every one of the individual songs for a bit of an analysis. The title track, Blackstar, is probably one of the most complex and minimalist songs that David had ever composed. It definitely sets the mood for the rest of the album. It starts with a kind of slow, eerie, jazzy kind of beat with very equally minimal lyrics. And in the middle, it goes into a kind of euphoric, kind of like, how should I say, very atmospheric section, almost like you took a trip into the afterlife, or just took a trance into like a near-death experience. It really gets to you in emotion, and you really do hear the slow and agonizing pain in David's voice. It really does get you there. It's also probably one of the longest songs that David ever made and sang, besides the title track of his album Station to Station. And that's a good thing. Songs like this should take their time to leave the impact to their listeners, and it should really get its point across so naturally and ever flowing. Next song is "'Tis a Pity She Was a Whore," which was actually originally made back at 2014 before being re-recorded for this album, and I can see why. It's a very dark rock album, if I can even call it that. Instead of thrashing guitars, we get these gritty saxophone melodies, and I don't think if there's even a guitar hidden here, then I would have to say kudos to the producer and the mixing engineers behind this particular song for trying to sneak it in such a thick layer of dark, ominous music. It also has some very passive-aggressive lyrics that were actually inspired by the tragic play "'Tis Pity She's a Whore" by John Ford, which mostly inspired the song and its title. Next there is the song "Lazarus," which actually came from his stage musical of the same name. And if the song "Blackstar" didn't do it for you, then I guarantee "Lazarus" will. It's definitely a very rocking song with a bit of Dire Straits and also a lot of vibes of late 90s and early 2000s Radiohead onwards. Its lyrics speak quite a bit of being in heaven, having scars and drama and money and all that. It really gives you a feeling that David wrote this song as he was dying, and knowing he was dying and death was inevitable. You really feel that. It's not very easy to explain in simple words, but if you were to listen to it for yourself, you may get what I mean. The second side begins with "Sue" or "In the Season of Crime," and it's another really nitty-gritty one. Subtle riffs from both the guitar and the percussion, and that kind of singing that you know instantly is that one man. Much like "'Tis a Pity She Was a Whore," this too was released back in around late of 2014 before being remade and recorded for this album. And this too fits just as well. Its very industrial nature does give me bits of vibes of late 60s, early 70s Pink Floyd, and a bit of 9 Inch Nails as well. It's a very good industrial track into that kind of style. Next is She Loves Me, a very eerie and trippy hop track that has lyrics that reference both Clockwork Orange and 1984. The way David's voice just cracks when he goes to the phrase, "Where the hell did Monday go?" It really shows and captures the desperation that grows over the course of the album. It definitely sounds like something the character of Jared from Labyrinth would sing if he was ever dying and pleading for the love of Jennifer Connelly's character of Sarah from the movie. Next is Dollar Days, which is a very piano-centric song. One of the things that came to our mind when hearing this was Wearing the Inside Out by Pink Floyd from the Division Bell album, with maybe a little hint of Keane in there as well. Here, the very mellow saxophone, Bowie's repeating phrase, "I'm trying to, I'm dying to," and the very slow crescendo at the end with the guitars and the drum, the piano and the sax, all make this one of the more chilling of the tracks on this particular album. And here's a very interesting fact. Bowie apparently written and recorded that song without even making a demo for it. I know, pretty interesting. I dare even say impressive even. And then of course segues into the last song of the album, and probably the last song that Bowie would probably ever make, I Can't Give Everything Away. This might possibly be the most optimistic and triumphant song of the album. After going through track after track about denials, passion, bargaining, depression, this really does give the impression that Bowie has finally come to acceptance of his eventual passing and is leaving this message that as long as his legacy and his music are still listened to and live on, he may never truly fade away. Lastly, I want to talk about the cover itself, which is very, very well done and very enigmatic. This is the vinyl edition version I got for Christmas just recently. And at first, it's very minimalistic. No text at all, as I'm a big fan of textless covers. But if you look down here at these little symbols, supposedly from what I heard, they spell out the name Bowie. B-O-W-I-E. That's very interesting and very clever way of putting it in, which is a lot you can get into. Overall, David Bowie's Blackstar is definitely a decent album. It shows him at his most experimental and his most emotional, and is without a doubt a worthy swan song to his overall legacy. If you are a big fan of David Bowie and you want to hear him do a new sound with his last few days, I think you might enjoy this album.